When I first started AI automations, I was lost. It felt hard and very confusing until I discovered this one framework that makes everything easy. So today, let me show you how I wish someone had taught me AI automations from scratch. This course is especially for beginners, but even if you are on intermediate level, you'll find a lot of value out of it. So welcome in my AI automations for beginners. This is what we will cover. So what is an automation flow? The 4 types of automations, automations tools, API versus webhooks, JSON, and finally systematic thinking and reverse engineering. All right, let's start with the basics. An automation flow is a sequence of automated steps that run in a specific order from a trigger to an outcome. Every automation has 3 main layers. Here on my automation flow chart, you can see here on the left end, the trigger, which is the start of the automation. We have in orange all the steps or actions. So within the steps, we have actions and conditions. We have branches as well. And finally, we have the outcome here on the right hand in green. Now, bear with me. Let me spend a second here. Automation flowcharts are very important. A matter of fact, before ever entering any AI automation tools, you first need to understand how a flowchart works because that's the bone structure behind an automation. So when you have a system or when you have a problem that you want to automate, the very first step is actually to draw the automation flowchart. Personally, I use Canvas whiteboard to create my automations flowchart. So if you want a video on how to create automations flowchart, let me know in the comment section and I'll do that for you. All right, let's now dive deeper into each part of an automation and break it down step by step. The trigger is basically the event that starts an automation, and we have 4 main categories of triggers. So we have the first one being event-based triggers. So the automation starts when something happens, something like a new form submission, a new row added in a Google Sheet, a new email received. So those are events. The second type of triggers are schedule-based triggers, or what we call time triggers. So for example, run at a specific time of the day, every day at 9 a.m., every Tuesday, every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, every Monday, every 10 minutes, and so on. The third type of triggers are manual triggers. So these are user-initiated triggers. So basically, the user has to press run once or click a button. And finally, the last type of triggers are webhook or API triggers. So these are advanced triggers. And basically, it's when a system or an app calls another app to start an automation. And that could be, for example, when Stripe sends data when someone's pay, like to send a confirmation email, or when OpenAI sends a callback, when TikTok sends a new webhook for a new event. So those are the 4 main type of triggers that we'll cover and that we will see in the demos of this video. All right, so hopefully this is making sense to you so far. Now let's dive in the second part of every automation, which is the steps or actions. Now, the steps or actions are individual tasks your automation performs after the trigger happens. All right, so the trigger is what starts the automations. The steps are individual tasks that the automation perform. There are 7 types of actions, and we will see them right now. The first type of actions are create actions. So this is where the automation creates something new. It can be creating a document, creating a folder, creating a row, creating a contact, a task, and so forth and so on. The second type of actions is update actions. So basically, this is where your automation modify existing data. So that could be update a CRM deal in HubSpot or Salesforce. That could also be update a sheet row. That could be update a record in a database. Now, the third type of actions are search or find actions. So this is where you find a user by email, or maybe you search for a sheet for matching data. You look up a file. The fourth type of actions are send actions. So this is where your automation sends something to a platform. So for example, send an email, send a WhatsApp, a Slack message, or send a file. The fifth type of actions are transform actions. So transform actions are basically when you format a text, you convert an audio file, you split a large file, you parse a JSON, or you clean or enrich existing data. Next up are logic actions. These are very important in automation. So this is where we talk about routers, filters, iterators, and aggregators. And finally, the last type of actions are what I call AI or large language model processing actions. This is where you use an AI tool like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude to summarize on a document, to classify a message, to generate a reply, to split, and to perform any task, generate an image, generate an audio file, any type of task that you will normally ask ChatGPT or a regular LLM. Let us now look at the last part of an automation, which is the outcome or the result. As you probably guessed, are the final outputs of an automation, the tangible things that the automation produces, updates, or completes after all actions run. Now, there are three types of results. You have data results. So these are when automations produce or changes data. So we have JSON generated, document created, row added to a sheet. We have content results. So this is when you generate or create content. So this could be text content, audio files, images, or even subtitles sometimes. And finally, we have business-oriented results. So this could be new lead creation, customer onboarding, and many more. Another very important thing to know is that not all automations are created equal. So we have four main categories of automations, and let's reveal them one by one. So first, trigger automations. These are tiny instant reactions to a single event. In business terms, if this happens, do that. If someone fills a form, send a welcome email. Pretty straightforward, very simple. In real life, it looks like this. So first, I have my trigger. Remember the trigger, what started the automation? So this is a form submission, all right? So let me show you the form real quick. So it's a newsletter sign up form that I created earlier. And basically, I connected my automation tool to the form and I watch every new submission. Then the next is an action. So the action here is send an email. So I've already set up the email and basically we'll do a demo and see how it turns. So anytime this form is submitted, the automation looks for new responses and each response becomes a trigger for the automation. So after each response, the automation sends a new email. So if I go in my inbox right here, this is actually the email that I'm sending. So hi Pharrell. Next up are workflow automations. So these are multi-step processes that happen the same way every single time. An example of that is get a script, convert to audio, generate the transcript, and then upload to a Google Drive. Let's see together an automation that I've already made. And let's actually do a quick review here of the type of action, the type of trigger, and the results of this particular automation. So for this automation, I decided to use a manual trigger. So it only runs when I click on this button right here. After the automation starts, we have many actions. So right here, we have a get document or get contents of a document. So this is a search or find action. Run a code. So this code right here is a transform action because I'm formatting the text that I'm getting from the document. Right here, the Google. So this is a create a Google folder. So this is a create action. This is also a transform action. Now this is an LLM this right here, this Entropy Cloud module is an LLM processing action. We have a couple of transform action. We have a logic action. So this is what is called an iterator. So this is a logic action. We have an LLM. So this is an API call. We'll review that. We will talk about that later in this video. You have upload a file. So upload a file, this is an update action. Download a file, this is a search and find action. The aggregator, the array aggregator is a logic action again, and then upload a file. So I think we actually have all the 7 types of actions inside this automation. And I've already explained how this automation works in another video, so check it right here. The remaining two categories of automations are actually advanced automations. So we will not go into details about those since this is a beginner-oriented video. So we have system automations. These are multiple workflows connected and combined together, communicating and sharing data with each other. So, for example, an automation with on content creation shares data with another automation with the script generation, and so forth and so on. And finally, the last part of automations are agentic automations. So basically, this is when the automation reason, decide, adapt, and plan. So that's where you use AI agent. So an AI agent receives a new lead, it analyzes engagement, follows up, adapts message, and books calls. So these are agentic automations. We'll cover them in a separate video. Now that we covered 50% of the basics, let's now review the top 3 automation software out there and compare them based on the ease to learn, the pricing, the ecosystem, the scalability, and finally, what is my choice for you? All right, so we have Zapier, which is a very popular automation tool. It's the oldest in the between the three. The ease to learn, I gauge it at a 4 out of 5 stars. It's easy for non-technical users. The pricing is a 3 because the entry plan starts at $19.99. The ecosystem is pretty robust, so it's a 4 out of 5 stars. The scalability is a 3 out of 5 stars. The second tool is called Make.com. I personally love it, and it's actually the tool that I used in the previous tutorials that I shared with you. So in terms of ease to learn, I rate it at a 5 out of 5 stars. The pricing is a 4 out of 5 because they actually offer a free plan and you have 1,000 credits. You can play around it. The core plan starts at $9 a month, which is pretty affordable. The ecosystem is very robust as Zapier or Zapier. I don't know. So it's a 4 out of 5 stars. The scalability is a 4 out of 5 stars because they're fairly generous for typical workflows and the cost based on operation. The last tool on the list is called N8N. I personally use it too. And in terms of ease to learn, I would rate it at a 3 out of 5 because it's for more technical folks. So if you're a beginner, it might be intimidating to start with N8N. The pricing is actually a 5 out of 5 stars because they have a free self-hosted plan, and the cloud plan are also pretty affordable. Now the ecosystem, I rate it at a 3 out of 5. There are hundreds of official nodes available plus community modules, but it's less robust in my opinion than Make.com and Zapier. Now, the scalability is a 5 out of 5 because it's pretty flexible, especially for self-hosted versions. So my personal recommendation for you is that if you're just starting out, Make.com would be the best go-to because it's great. It offers a free plan. You can build pretty complex workflows and also basic workflows with them. And I personally use it every day. So yeah, it's a 4 out of 5. Now, if you're a little more advanced, if you someone you like coding, you've write codes before, you're a technical folk, then go with N8N. Is really good if you want deep customization. N8N is a very great choice, and also price wise, it's more affordable than Make.com in my opinion. Now, Zapier will come last on the list because it's very nice. Like if you want quick wins, very simple automations, minimal technical setup. But if you want to build something more complex, Zapier can have limitations. Regardless of the automation platform you decided to use, there are two similar concepts that you must absolutely master if you're truly serious about AI automations: APIs and webhooks. An API is a way for two apps to talk to each other and exchange information automatically. There are many different types of APIs, but the one that you will use the most inside your automations are REST APIs and also webhooks. Now, what are REST APIs? Here is a simple analogy to understand it. So picture this. You drive to a restaurant to see if your order is ready, okay? And the webhook, that's an API. And the webhook is the waiter texts you to say, hey, your order is ready. So in one case, in the first instance, you send a message to request data, okay? You send a message, you initiate a message to request data, and then the server sends back the response. In the second instance, you just wait and listen. So the server sends you the data, all right? That is the main difference between webhooks and APIs. In one case, you initiate a conversation and then the server sends back the response. That is a REST API. And then in the other case, you just wait for data, and whenever the data comes, you act upon it. Now, webhooks are mainly and frequently used as triggers, all right? So because we're just waiting and listening for data to start an automation. APIs are frequently used as action. So let's say I want to convert a text into an audio file, like on my automation right here. So basically, I do an API call. So I call Google AI Studio, so the text-to-speech feature of Google AI Studio, to do the work for me, which is exactly what I was doing here. Now, let me come back to my slide here. Now, there are key concepts you need to understand when it comes to APIs. So on one end, you have the client, which is you, and on the other end, you have the server, okay? Now, for the client to communicate with the server, we need methods. So we have many methods. We have the get, the post, the put, the delete, and many more. But most of the time you use post method because you initiate a conversation. And then you also have the URL. The URL is basically the link to get access to the other platform. So you will see that information in the documentation section of apps like the APIs. Yeah, they have a well-written documentation. But like today with ChatGPT, you can just have it access to it. You can just let ChatGPT do the work for you. If APIs and webhooks are conversations between two apps, JSON is the language they speak. So it's a very specific data format that is very easy and simple to understand. So it's the way it's formatted is always between two curly brackets. You have keys and values. So for example, here, one key is survey ID and the value is 123. Another key is score and the value is 9. So apps, this is like a standard way of communication between different apps. So you hear JSON a lot. In order to use APIs and webhooks, you'll need what is called an API key. And basically, it's like the password that lets one app access another's app's data or features. Now, keep in mind that each key is unique and personal, so you should not share your API key with anyone outside maybe team members and people that you trust. Now, let's do a quick demo together on how to make an API request or an API call to Google AI Studio for TTS, which is text to speech. So first, I need to add a new module. I need to add an HTTP module. So I type HTTP, and that is make a request. Now, I've already asked ChatGPT to give me like all the endpoint, the headers to set up the API. So that is easy to find. So here I can see that we will use a post method, and then I can copy the URL. I'll choose a method which is post, and I'll paste my URL here. Now I will add headers. So for the headers, I need to add two headers. So first is the API key. So I'll put it here, and this is where I will add the value of my API key. This obviously I will not put it like this right now because this is very sensible. And then the content type, which is application/JSON. So I will copy paste the second header as well. Okay. Now the next part I need to set up is the body. So here for the body, I will use raw. The content type will be JSON most of the time. And then the request content is basically the prompts I will use, okay? So right here, I'll just paste my prompts. After adding the API key here, I will run it. So when I click on run once, So the API call has been successfully executed. All right, last but not least, systematic thinking and reverse engineering. Guys, I wanted to do the shortest video possible, but this is getting lengthy already, so I'll make it very straight to the point. The most important thing to remember here is that backwards is faster than forwards. Now, what does this mean exactly? This means that the fastest way to build an AI automation is to build it backward. Like Steve Jobs said, you can only connect the dots looking backward. So you start with the end goal in mind. And actually you start with the end module and you build the previous modules on top of each other. So you start with the final outcome in mind, you work backwards to identify the steps, and finally you build forwards once you've mapped the logic. Now again, this work you don't even do inside Make or inside Anytime directly. You do it on your automation flow. You start with the automation flow, you build your automation flow looking backwards, and then once you have the logic, you have the system, like you have a clear map, a clear idea of the process of each thing, you then go on Make, and then you implement that system. Now, another thing that is very critical that I didn't mention here on my slide is really building blocks of modules. You don't just like, let's say if I wanted to do this automation from scratch, I would not like build all the modules and then run it just once. No, I'll first build the first two modules, I'll run them, and I'll store the data. And then I'm sure that, okay, these two modules are okay, I have everything I need there, I store it, and then I move forward. Okay, it's a very bad, that's the worst thing you can do when it comes to automation, is trying to build out everything first and then running it and then trying to debug the code. No, you have to first think backwards, so reverse engineer. You start with the end goal in mind, and then you reverse the steps and you identify each steps. And most importantly, once you've mapped out the whole thing, you then build block by block, block by block. And that's it. So if you've watched this video to this point, I'm pretty sure that you're really serious about AI automations. And I want to encourage you to stay on track. And hopefully this video simplifies the most essential things you need to build any automations from scratch. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in the comment. Watch my other videos on practical AI automations that I've built. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe.